It's just a public service announcement. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Ho, H to the O-V. I used to move snowflakes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pro Sports Takes, where we make our takes on the future of sports.
And this is PSO's first show, so we're coming out to make statements, not sentences. On this platform, we plan on elaborating on why the biggest topics in sports can affect the near future of the game. At the end of the day, we're not here to be conservative or make safe takes, but to make bold predictions that are actually likely to happen.
And as you can see from the title, this episode is all about Patrick Mahomes, so let's get right to the take. People who know me knew this was coming because I've been on this guy from day one. Now that it's all on the record, I could just go with an easy take and say Patrick Mahomes is going to win multiple championships and multiple MVPs that would enter himself into a rare class in the all-time quarterback Mount Rushmore. But this is the third episode of Pro Sports Takes. Like Brandon said, we got to make statements, not sentences around here. So that's why take number 3 is that Patrick Mahomes will become the number 1 greatest player, not in Chiefs history, not in football history, but in sports history. I'm not talking about just the most accomplished player or just the winningest player, not just the flashiest player, not just the most awards, records, and MVPs. We're talking about everything. But let's start with the facts, okay? No player in the history of football or maybe any sport has had a better start to their career than Patrick Mahomes by winning an MVP, championship MVP, ending a 50-year title drought, setting numerous records, inking the largest contract in professional sports history. I could go on and on, all before turning 25 years old. And this is a guy who is supposed to be raw coming out of college and need time to reach his full potential, which is just a scary thought to think that he can take his game to a level higher than it already is. Obviously, nothing is certain in life, but I think it'd be more shocking or surprising to see him not live up to this potential than it would be for him to not become the GOAT at this point. The hope I have by pointing this out today is that someone sees this or hears this and realizes we could be witnessing the greatest athlete to ever play professionally, because with that knowledge, you can make a lot of money. Like, I seriously think if you just bet on Patrick Mahomes for the rest of his career, you could become a very rich person. Like, go invest in his rookie football card. It will become even more valuable. The things he's doing so early in his career, like what we talked about before with the MVP, Super Bowl MVP, 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, $500 million contract. And more important than that is really just a simple eye test. Like, everyone who knows the game of football can just watch this guy play every game and say, hey, this guy, this number 15 guy, is the best player on the field. And people who have never watched football watch him and can quickly identify who looks like the best player on the field. And I think when it's all said and done, it'll even get to the point where New England fans will have to admit that Patrick Mahomes has surpassed Brady as the GOAT, similar to how 49ers fans currently accept Brady is greater than Montana. And I'm not going to go as far as making the declaration that his team will win as many Super Bowls as the greatest coach of all time and his extremely clutch quarterback did, but I'm also not saying he won't. Now, I know it's early in his career and it might never be unanimous, but I do believe it will become very common to consider Patrick Mahomes the greatest athlete of all time when it's all said and done. And people might look back on this and be like, yeah, obviously he was going to be. But right now, there's a lot of people listening to this that think I'm crazy for making such a bold prediction. So I'm really interested to hear what you think, B.
Yeah, I don't think you're crazy for your prediction. And although Mahomes has had one of the best starts of his career compared to any athlete in sports history, it might be a stretch saying he's going to be the greatest athlete of all time. Mahomes has accomplished so much before the age of 25. He's made passes that we've never seen before. But we're talking about all 3 major sports here at the end of the day. When you compare him to Jordan's 6-0 finals dominance, who retired at the top of his career twice, Tom Brady's 6 rings. Shout out to NFC East for their 3-1 record versus Brady in the Super Bowl. Wilt Chamberlain, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, the list goes on and on. LeBron James. But I can't deny the brilliance and the game-changing presence that Mahomes brings on a gamely basis. He has two ridiculous weapons in Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And he also has one of the best coaches, offensive coaches in Bieniemy, who's everyone's surprised is not a head coach by now in his career. Big Red has had plenty of offensive success with legendary quarterbacks like Donovan McNabb and Michael Vick, who are also seen as game-changing or dynamic quarterbacks in their own way, especially Michael Vick, who's really one that we've never seen before in the league. But the only knock I really have on Mahomes is he barely deserved to win Super Bowl MVP this year. There can't be many quarterbacks that's thrown 2 interceptions and still came away with the MVP. He might have put up one of the worst Super Bowl MVP performances of all time, especially in the first half. But he's also the youngest quarterback ever to win Super Bowl MVP, and he really did start to come alive in the second half. But it's looking like Tom Brady's really his biggest competitor to being the best NFL player of all time. But I do see the Mahomes and Reid era having that potential of Brady and Belichick. I mean, that might be a little stretch for me to say. They've won 6 rings together, and yeah, Mahomes and Reid have just won their first, and that's Andy Reid's first Super Bowl, and he's been a coach for God knows how long. But I think Mahomes will break plenty of records. I think he'll win multiple Super Bowls, and he'll be a surefire Hall of Famer. But I actually think Aaron Donald is the best player right now in the NFL. I know that's not the discussion, but I mean, he's led the league in TFLs each of the last 2 years, and we've seen Aaron Donald change the game of football. We've never seen interior D linemen get 20-plus sacks in the season, and we've never seen teams completely change their scheme to stop one man. They'll double-team him and triple-team him because they know if it comes down to one-on-one versus him in a guard or him in the center or him even in the tackle, not many people have a chance of stopping him. But Mahomes also is changing the game with his dynamic throws, non-look passes, all that. So that's what we love to see about football nowadays.
I mean, there's a lot of things to touch on there. I mean, I think your perspective right now, being a surefire Hall of Famer and changing the game and all that, like, I think everyone believes that, and that's why this take is a bold prediction, but why I think it's likely to happen of Mahomes becoming the near unanimous, or at least the majority of people recognize him as the greatest athlete of all time when it's said and done. Like, just that last name of Mahomes just kind of have that special, feeling to people like Jordan, and, that long-lasting impact that it has. But man, when you said the Super Bowl that he barely deserved it, I feel like I know what you're saying, but like I almost think the Super Bowl is a big reason why I believe this. Like, that was without a doubt his worst performance going into that fourth quarter, and then for him to be on that stage, obviously for the first time, is probably what contributed to it. And then for him to still go back and be able to mentally overcome that adversity, deliver probably the best 8 minutes of Super Bowl history in the last 8 minutes, and consistently score on every drive they needed to, come through with that long third down throw, wasp to Tyreek Hill, and just really perform at his highest level when they needed him most. Like, the fact that he just consistently does that with his back against the wall, I think that was really what made me believe, wow, even in this moment that he'll probably never have again, because now he has experienced the Super Bowl, he has been on that big stage, he will know what that's like, he still was able to come through. So like, it seems like, and he injured himself this year. It's like, what is going to stop him? Because I really think the only thing that can stop him is injury. But then it just seemed like he was able to even overcome this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's overcame a lot of adversity, especially this year with the dislocated kneecap, I believe it was. But when I had to go back and watch the tape before I say it's one of the worst Super Bowl MVP performances.
It was until that final.
It was. But I had to go back and watch those final 8 minutes again. But when I think about that Super Bowl and that MVP performance, I think of that 3rd and 15, really at the end of the game, where it was one-on-one with Tyreek Hill running right at the safety. I think it was Jimmy Ward, and he wound up breaking him off.
Could have been, by the way, on that throw, could have been a better throw. That could have easily been a touchdown. But he did what he needed to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, he kind of just, but that was the biggest play, and that's why I hate, like, kind of saying this, but I don't want to knock him for that. But, like, he didn't really make that play. I think Tyreek Hill really made the play. The play call made the play, and that was the biggest play in the game.
I do agree Tyreek Hill deserves more credit for that play than Mahomes, but also the fact that now we saw in the mic'd up that Mahomes was the one that asked for that play and like was kind of essentially the play caller for that, and like knew exactly when to call that as a 24-year-old. I mean, the whole thing is just, it's special.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't mean to take anything away from the Chiefs or Mahomes, but I mean, I think Mahomes, 2 interceptions, the way that he played in the first half, he set his team up to really lose that game, in my opinion. I'm not only blaming it on him, but just the team in general did. If Kyle Shanahan wasn't such a shitty second-half coach, then I think the 49ers could have danced their way to winning their first Super Bowl in, probably since the 80s, maybe.
Yeah, I don't want to, dial in on one game, but obviously it is the most important game of his career. And, if I were to pinpoint it to one thing, I would say Jimmy G missing Emmanuel Sanders for that game-winning touchdown. That, to me, was either they win or lose based off that one throw, and obviously they lost it. But you still have to credit Mahomes for digging down deep, playing at such a big stage at a young age, obviously being overcome by the moment, playing his worst game, and then still finding a way to come through. It just shows this guy's different. He's setting records left and right, on and off the field, and he's just a great guy. I'm just betting or putting my credibility on the line, knowing how good of a person he is and how competitive he is, and his drive to not only just be satisfied with the first win in Kansas City in 50 years, but now wanting to run it back and wanting to add to his legacy and chase Tom Brady and do all those things. So it'll be interesting.
He has the dedication. He has the drive. He has the dad. His family's obviously had success in baseball. He knows what it takes, and it seems like he's determined to do what it takes. And he's really trying to step up in that platform. And I don't think he's one of those players that once he gets paid, especially the way that he just got paid, to kind of let his performance drop after that. So I think Mahomes, the sky's the limit. And I think everybody knows that he has a really good chance of being a great player. So it's interesting to see where his career goes from here.
So if not Mahomes, who do you consider the greatest athlete of all time? Obviously, he's not Mahomes right now, but I'm saying in 20 years.
I feel like I would have to say Jordan, especially the 6-0 record. He had a really good team, but the fact that he retired twice in his career, at the top of his career, leading the league in points, putting up 30 points per game, really doing that, putting up 30 points per game was not very common until Jordan came along. He solidified doing it over and over and over again. And then he was winning defensive MVPs, but defensive players of the year. And just the way that his game was just so consistently good for so long. And he would have probably topped every single statistical category there is if he didn't sit out or retire those 2 years.
Yeah, that's the thing, though, is obviously Jordan's such a high mountain to climb that, LeBron, the chosen one, hasn't even been able to climb that yet. But he did retire in 3 of his prime years, and then another 3 years kind of where he still was performing at a high level. So, the opportunity is there for someone to catch him. And I'm just saying, I don't think anyone has a better chance than Patrick Mahomes.
I can see it for sure.
So lock it in. That's our take for the day. And you can find all pro sports takes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, or wherever you're listening to this right now, or even better if you're watching this on Pro Sports Outlook's YouTube channel.
And instead of just listening or watching, get involved yourself and leave a comment on what player or what team you want us to make a take about. You can tweet us at PSO_sports, and you can use the hashtag ProSportsTakes. And we'll go through all those and see if we can add some knowledge to the subjects you like.
See you tomorrow.